Okay, we're live from Albert Lea, Minnesota, in the Profitpro headquarters. We're in action now. Well, we want to welcome everybody to our webinar, our November webinar, and I think we've got a good topic tonight that we're going to talk about. Don't leave yield potential in the manure lagoon. We don't want to do that, do we? So I'm Dr. Jim Ladley, and I'll be your host, and we also have Dennis Clockengay and Chris Chowder will be joining us tonight. They work with growers all over the Midwest in manure treatment and management. So I think we've got some really good information to share with you about how to get potential out of your manure. You can access this information on our website, profitproag.com, and we also have sent out a lot of emails, which we traditionally do every month, on the topic that we're covering tonight. If you have questions, we'll try to cover those at the end. We'll also have John tell us where we can access some of the videos that we've taken over the years with our producers and testimonials on it that are on our website. So I guess what we'd like to do now is go ahead here and get started. So I'll bring up the PowerPoint. And don't leave yield potential in the manure lagoon or pit. Now, the fact is manure contains all the 13 essential plant nutrients that are needed for crops to grow and develop. In fact, many producers have swine finishing barns for the sole purpose of obtaining the manure for fertility on their crops. So this is a very important topic. And we know that if the manure is not managed properly and we have an odor problem, odor on manure leaving is nutrients leaving. If we have a lot of sludge on the bottom, that's where a lot of our nutrients are. So we want to learn how to manage it effectively to optimize the quality of that manure and reduce a lot of the cost associated with handling it, getting it to the field, and then to enhance the response we see in our crops after application. So as we look at this, how is your manure or pit lagoon behaving today? And we know that there's a lot of issues out here that we run into. One of the things that we try to do at Profitpro is be your right hand person out there, helping you manage your manure if you've got livestock, whether it be dairy, beef, swine. And we're here to really provide guidance and support. And we stand 100% behind any of our manure programs that we put out here. And we're available for consulting and also to address any concerns. Some maybe flies, it may be top crust, it may be bottom solids, or other issues that you have with manure. And of course, once we get in a treatment program with you, we're your partner. And we're going to help you through the year to get the quality manure and the nutrient value out of that to maximize it as much as we can. So as we look at this, any issues that you may have with bottom solids, top crust, odor, flies, or foaming, these are all the major ones that we see with manure and we get calls on every day. Now, one of the things that is kind of interesting, and I was thinking that just a little bit a while ago when I was thinking about the presentation, you know, a lot of our customers, we don't get a call from them until they got a problem. You know, they maybe have crusting, or they have flies, or they can't get their pit completely cleaned out at pumping time. They got too much sludge on the bottom. A big common one we see today is the foaming, the methane foam that we're getting in a lot of these finishing barns that's loaded with methane and can be very, very dangerous. And when that happens, boy, the phone starts ringing. Sometime in July and August, we get a lot of calls regarding that. But these can really be headaches to manage around for a lot of reasons. They cost money and time. So the challenge is, how do we make these problems go away? And really what it comes down to is really focusing on microbes. And microbes are the invisible little creatures that we have in manure, and all manure has it in naturally, that go about taking care of all the problems we have there if they're not overwhelmed. And now there's issues that can impact their performance. And we want to talk about those tonight. So we're going to talk about Microbiology 101. And here's a picture of a lagoon that is active and bubbling and got a lot of really good biological activity going on. Now, microbes are very effective, but they can be affected by cold weather, the wrong pH, or lack of water. Sometimes with some of these water conservation programs we have in the barn, we don't have a lot of water there for the microbes to work with and in the biological decomposition process. Now, Penn State University has put out a lot of really good information. One that I kind of focus on a little bit tonight on the front end of our presentation is biological manipulation of manure, getting what you want from animal manure. And so we're going to talk about some of the things that they talk about. They talk about manure contains energy. And in a sense, agriculture is all about managing energy flow. And a lot of our winter program on the crop side is going to be about energy and crop production. And we produce energy in the form of glucose in the crop side of the equation. And the more energy we have, the healthier the plant is and it stays greener longer. When we run out of energy, that's when we get premature death of our crop. So obviously, crops have energy. Animals eat the crop in the form of corn, soybeans. And so that is then comes out of the animal in the form of manure, not only nutrients, but energy. So they use that energy and the nutrition in that crop that they're eating to build biomass and produce milk and, of course, eggs. Now, solar energy is lost through respiration and heat from the animal, just like it is in a plant. And when a plant, especially in the reproductive stage, you have a lack of water or high temperatures, you have a lot of respiration or burning of energy. And that's taking yield potential away from the crop. Well, the animal uses that energy that's in that crop, again, to maintain their body and to grow. What isn't used is excreted in the manure. So this extra energy is really what drives the microbes. And so when they start out, they're building their population to take care of the waste that's in that pit or lagoon. And when they build up to a certain level, they plateau. And then when it starts running out of energy, they start coming down to the point where they then will basically become dormant. It's been completely digested or bio-augmented, we might say. So that's how the process works. And at this point, the manure is biological stable and it has a good base, or what we call has been deputrified for application to the field. Now, understand this. If the microbes don't do a good job of digesting the manure completely in the pit or lagoon, and you put out raw manure, now the microbes in the field have got to deal with that. So that takes time and energy. So it takes energy away from crop production. And that's why if you put out raw manure in the spring and plant in behind it, your crop normally does not do very well. Also, that raw manure has higher salt levels in it. When we bio-augment manure, we drop the salt levels, the microbes do. And so that's why, again, in the spring, if you have completely digested, bio-augmented manure, you can plant right in behind it and the crop will do very well. Now, the biological side of thing and what we call biological manipulation can be used to manage odor, nutrients, consistency, and stability of the treated manure. We call that sometimes bio-augmentation of the manure. The biology augmentates the manure or digests it. And so this is all driven again by the nutrition and energy that's in that manure that the microbes live on. Now, this is very important because as we look at various factors such as the environment for microbes can be controlled and used as a tool to put the microorganisms to work. So what we want to do is we want to have these microbes be in an environment that they can optimize themselves. Now, what do microbes really do? Let's talk about that a little bit in manure. Why are they effective? Well, simply, microbes or microbiome is the most important thing in all aspects of life. Microbes are everywhere. They're in the soil, they're in the stomachs of animals, they're in our stomach. There's microbes everywhere in the environment. And these microbes produce enzymes. Enzymes are proteins. And at the center of every enzyme is a trace element like zinc or moly, and they call those cofactors. So these enzymes are catalysts, which means they cause things to speed up in the metabolism or growing of things, or in this case, the digestion of things. So microbes produce enzymes and secondary metabolites that cause things to digest. Now, every microbe will produce an enzyme, and it has a very specific function. That's why diversity in the microbes within the manure pit are very, very important. The more diversity, the better the digestion, the total digestion. Now, the problem is native manure, or what we call natural manure, has microbes in it, indigenous microbes or natural microbes. However, with the load of manure that we're putting in today, and often coming from DDGs, sometimes the grain will have glyphosate in it, disinfectants, antibiotics, high salt rations, the native population can't keep up and do a thorough job of complete digestion of the manure, and to keep bottom solids at bay, and also control odors and top crust and prevent flies from establishing in that pit or lagoon. So this is kind of how it works. So we have to add additional microbes that have the capability of producing the enzymes that will completely digest the most difficult materials that are in the manure. Now, the way it works, believe it or not, these microbes talk to each other. And the first role of the microbial community is to take out the toxins, the salts, the disinfectants, the antibiotics, etc., and then to deputrefy. Now, that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. A lot of times when we work with producers, they think because they add it to the pit or lagoon that in a week or two, the manure is going to be liquid, there's not going to be any odor, there's not going to be any flies. Well, normally after starting the treatment program on an annual basis, it may take us a month to really start turning things around, and you'll start noticing the flies go away and the odor go away if it's working properly. So what we have to understand is the care and feeding of desirable microbes that we put in there in our manure treatments like Manure Master Plus. They can reduce the odor and nuisance problems associated with manure storage and handling. And this is going to provide a more desirable product. You're going to have less complaints from your neighbor as far as odor around your site, as well as when you're applying it in the field. So what we want to do is we want to use biology to our advantage to address some of the challenges that we see, including the formation of top crust that harbors flies. And again, if you have a crust, that's where the flies will lay their eggs and multiply. And maggots then can carry diseases and cause livestock performance issues or carcass quality problems. Also, one of the great advantages of treating manure is reduce pathogen load in the building. Very, very important. Now, one of the things that I've noticed over the years, a lot of times when we treat at the loadout hole, because our manure cultures are low pH, we'll treat and you'll actually see the maggots crawling out of the loadout hole up the cement sides to get out of there. And so what it does, it really changes the environment where the maggot won't pupate into an adult. We also get foaming challenges in pits that affect capacity. And a lot of times this is due to what we call the methanogen microbe, which produces methane, which can be very dangerous. And this can be, we've seen it 2, 4, 6 inches deep. We've seen pigs in a foot of foam coming through the slats. We have a product called Foam Away that we created about 8 years ago to take care of this problem. It's a dry material, and you put it in at 5 pounds per 100,000 gallons of manure in a pit. And usually in 2 to 3 days, the foam will start to go down, and it'll keep it down for the rest of the season. So this can be handled very effectively with Manure Master Foam Away. Bottom solids build up over time too. And again, this is a lack of proper digestion by the microbes. And this bottom solid is where a lot of the nutrients are. So when we add a new consortium of microbes that have the capability of handling the sludge, what they do is they reach down and they create kind of air pockets of buoyancy in the bottom sludge. And then that floats to the top in the top 10 inches where there's oxygen, and that's where the digestion occurs. And over time, they clean that whole bottom off. Now, it depends on if you start out with 4 feet of solids and you don't do a good job of agitation, it may take you a couple of years to clean that off the bottom. But if you've got 1 or 2 feet of solids, normally in 1 year and with agitation, you can clean those bottoms off out very effectively. So the microbes are the agitators. So, the reason why we're seeing more challenges sometimes today is because over time, we've actually changed the feed rations. We've concentrated more manure in a shorter period of time. That has led to some of these issues that we've seen. And of course, what we're trying to do is not only liquefy the manure, reduce odors, get away from the flies, the foaming, but we want to dramatically reduce agitation. And by treating with our microbial formulations, Manure Master Plus as an example, we often can see a 50 or more % reduction in agitation. We have producers that have been on the program, 3 or more years that don't even agitate. They just pump or hardly agitate at all. And so there's a big value there when we look at that. They go to the field with a full load, and that's very, very important. So we talked about the fact that we've got to add microbes that can produce the right enzymes to take care of the manure and break it down properly and get rid of the toxins fast. So the microbes really speed up the whole process. And what we do is we actually boost the value of that manure and reduce handling costs, as we talked about. This is because we really kick it into high gear. And it's all driven by the microbes that we have in these cultures. And what they do is they actually can go down and grab that stuff, as we said, off the bottom in that sludge zone and pop that up to the top. And sometimes when you're out in a lagoon situation, you'll actually see where they've got bottom solids. You start treating in a month, you'll start seeing these swirls at the top where this stuff is popping up to the top in chunks. We've seen chunks as big as Volkswagens come up. And also another thing is surprising. We've been in beef pits where they've lost cattle panels like 10, 15 years ago. And because they had so much sludge in the bottom that those panels were down there. And once we start treating, we start bringing all that stuff to the top. So it really does work very effectively. Then you maintain that pit volume that allow you to go fall to fall, pump out and maintaining that capacity. The other thing that we see is these microbes are digesting this manure, and what they're doing is they're bringing the nutrients into their microbial bodies. So they're retaining nutrients. And so as we look at that, these nutrients in the manure are increased. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an example of this here. Iowa State says, what are the nutrients in a finishing barn, would you think, that are available? And if they're totally available, there's 78% of the feed value, or when the feed coming out of the animal, of what they put, the nutrients in the ration they feed, there's 70 to 80% of the nutrient and nitrogen that comes out in the manure, 60 to 85% of the P, and 80 to 90% of the K comes out in the manure. And of course, all the secondary and trace elements also. So you see, manure has a lot of value, and that's why, again, a lot of people have finishing barns is for the manure. And the other thing that's important like in a dairy cow or a bovine, a ruminant animal, beef animal, or a dairy cow or a steer, for example, in the 30 hours from mouth to tail in the feed that goes through their digestive tract, they only glean out about 45% of the energy and nutrition. So you see, agronomically, manure has a lot of value. And what we've seen over the years, and we've been in this game over 20 years, is that after a couple years of putting out this bio-augmented manure that's been deputrified, we'll see somewhere between a 5 and 15% increase in agronomic yields. And that's because we're getting rid of the salt manure, we're retaining the nutrients, it's less leachable but bioavailable, and the microbes that are in the manure continue to work in the soil. The other thing that we see is we talk about the manure consistency and the reduction in toxic gases. Like hydrogen sulfide can be very, very dangerous. And we see a lot of issues there in these deep pitted beef barns. We're into several of those where there's been human loss. And again, by treating this manure, we can get rid of the hydrogen sulfide. And that really lingers in that anaerobic sludge in the bottom. And so we have sulfur reducing bacteria that will mitigate the hydrogen sulfide in our cultures, and also the ammonia. Now, when it comes to ammonia, I've got here a study that was done that shows, I believe, the University of Illinois in a nursery situation, that if you got 50 parts per million of ammonia, where we started with 6 pigs that had they all in all these different pens. There's 4 pens, 0 ammonia, 50 part per million, 100 and 150. What we saw with no ammonia, an average daily gain of 1.08. In the 50 parts, 0.96. In the 100, 0.76, as well as in the 150. So after 28 days, the difference in weight gain where you had high ammonia was in the control. They had a 11.81 pounds weight gain, but where they had more than 50 pounds, it went down to 2.77. So you see this these toxic gases that are in these barns can be very devastating to the health of the livestock and their performance. And also, just the fact, as we talked about, human loss in livestock. Now, the products that we have to work with, we've got a whole arsenal of products. We have the Manure Master Plus, which is our primary manure bioaugmentation product. We have Pit Accelerator, which we use where we have a lot of bottom sludge, or we're working with a lot of fiber and beef and dairy. We have the Manure Master Foam Away for the methane foam pits and the finishing barns. But another really good product that we have that has worked very well is Manure Mechanical Defoamer. And this is a product that you use when you're agitating and pumping manure at application time. And this particular material is a liquid material. You use about 1 gallon per 100 to 300,000 gallons of manure, and you lightly agitate the pit, put it in based on the amount you got in there as far as manure, and then lightly agitate and start pumping. And we introduced this, I think, about 3 years ago. And I tell you what, the custom applicators love this product. We got one we work with up around Redwood Falls, Doug Rollick, who pumps about 50 million gallons a year. They run night and day when they get going in the fall. And, you know, Doug prides himself in doing a good job. And he was a little hesitant in whether he needed this or not. And so I sent him some. And once he used it, all his staff that worked for him said, Doug, we're not going to work here any longer unless you use the Manure Mechanical Defoamer, because, boy, we load quicker. There's no spillover. We go to the field with a full load. We get done quicker. And so that's what we see with this particular product. So we got a full arsenal of technologies to help handle the most difficult manure situations that we have out here today. Now, Manure Master Plus, this is probably like our 3rd to 4th generation of manure treatment technology that we constantly upgrade it. But it's got a multitude of microbes in it that can really do a good job of reducing crusting solids and give you consistent manure, improve nutrient retention, increase the biological activity in the manure in the soil, and enhance soil life also. So that is something that we pride ourselves in with Manure Master Plus. Now, one of the things that a lot of people will notice when they start using the product, their neighbors will comment on, did you haul your manure yet? Well, yeah, I did. I did it 2 weeks ago. Well, we didn't smell it this year. And that's because the product is effectively taking care of the odor at application time. And the housewives like it because it reduces flies around the farmstead. And it just really reduces, as we said before, handling cost, and can really make a difference in your bottom line and in your farming operation. And that's really what we want to do here. Now, there's a lot of testimonials that are available on our website and videos, and these are just a few of them. This is one from Center Point, Iowa. I really like how Manure Master Plus is a complete product. It keeps crusting down, helps cut down on solids, improves P and K availability, and overall makes our manure more usable. Now, when he mentioned the P and K, I got a study here that we did several years ago in a finishing barn with one of our growers, where we treated the second year. He had an historic nutrient analysis on this finishing barn, and this was a 2,400 head barn. And where we started treating the second year, he picked up 22 pounds of nitrogen, 12 pounds of phosphorus, and 8 pounds of potassium. So again, if you got good quality manure that or good quality feed going into the animal, then that's going to make good quality nutritious manure coming out. Now, I just want to comment here also, we've got another study that we did, a replicated field study. This was done probably 15 years ago. It was 4 replications, corn on corn. We put down 90 pounds of N on the plot, and then we planted the corn, and we injected the manure right in the furrow with the corn near it, right to the side. And where we had bio-augmented manure, we can measure the salt level in manure with using an EC meter, and you simply put manure on the EC meter indicator area, and it'll give you a reading from 0 to 32. Raw manure generally will be, in the high 30s when it's raw, and when we get it, composted down, bio-augmented in most pits and lagoons, since you're adding new manure all the time, it'll get down to about 15. But if you put it in a lagoon or a pit and you treat it annually and don't add any new, you can get it down to about 7. So you dramatically reduce salt levels. EC is an indicator of salt. The lower the salt, the lower the reading. The higher the salt, the higher the reading. So in this case, we had manure that we trialed was a 3.7 EC versus a 25 EC, more raw manure. And we had better nutrient content within the plant, better pH of the plant sap. But at the end of the year, when we took yields, where the control, where we had no manure, we set that at 100%. Where we had the raw manure, we had 28% increase in yield. But where we had the bio-augmented manure, we had 40% increase in yield over the control. So you can see the impact of bio-augmentation. The other thing that was commented here, I pump my own manure and only have one pump. So agitation was difficult prior to using Manure Master Plus. Now even the bottom of the pit has the ideal liquid consistency. It's really impressive how one product gives all of these advantages. I'm on my 3rd year of using Manure Master Plus and plan on using it for many more. So this is one comment. Here's another one out of Crawfordsville, Iowa. I started using Manure Master Plus in the fall of 2018 in both finishers and nursery buildings, and have been really impressed with it. It keeps the pits from crusting, which also keeps the flies down. I have tried other manure products, additives in the past, but with Manure Master Plus, I truly saw results. So these are, again, we get a lot of these testimonials. Here's one on mechanical manure defoamer. Just going back to Manure Master Plus, I ran a big featured article in one of the farm news publications in Iowa here recently, and I had one of our growers text me and said, I read your article and I just wanted to let you know that your product after 2 years of use is the best I've ever seen. I've used another product for 20 years and I never saw the reduction in odor and the liquefaction manure like I see with your product. In regard to the mechanical manure foamer, he comments, I've used manure mechanical defoamer for 2 years and think it's a great product. When I started using it, I quickly saw how well manure mechanical defoamer worked, making it worth the money that we pay for it. Today, I buy it in 55-gallon drums and use it in every single pit. It really reduces foam and helps us load tankers quickly. Because of this product, we're able to utilize the full capacity of the tankers and even cut down on the number of loads. Overall, this product saves time, increases efficiency. I highly recommend manure mechanical defoamer to others hauling manure. So one of the things that they like about it is it speeds up the whole operation, so you can get it in and out of a job quicker, and you've got less fuel, you got less time filling either the tanker or the manure tanker or the truck tanker, and so it's taken less time, fuel, and manpower. So they like that, and they're saving money by utilizing the technology. And here's just another one talking about the benefits of manure mechanical defoamer. So again, I would, John, maybe you could comment right now, where can they access the testimonials and videos on our website? Okay.
This is our YouTube page, and it's just go to YouTube and type in Manure Master, and it'll come right up. Here you can see we have some testimonials and different demos for like the foam away and the mechanical defoamer. There's some really nice nice video here on manure testing and how we test, and also again the testimonials from different places. For the dairy farm, we have a beef operation here, and this is a hog trial that we did head-to-head with another product. So I'll turn it back over to you, Jim.
Okay, thank you. Well, listen, Chris Chowder, of course, heads up our manure treatment business in the company, and Chris is so knowledgeable. I mean, he's been around manure and studies it and watches it and knows why it behaves the way it does and how to manage some of these most difficult issues. And I don't know, Chris, are you on? Can you talk at this point or not? He may not be. But this is what I would like to say. If you work with us with your manure, we have a 100% performance guarantee program. In that if we give you the recommendation and you self-treat and you have flies or you have foam, we will come in and make the correction for you. We stand behind what we do 100%. I want to also tell you that we do have a service. And Chris has a partner, and he spends every day out on the road treating different sites, whether it be dairies, beef, or swine operations. And so we will contract with you on an annual basis to basically take care of the manure for you. So you don't have to worry about it. So it's up to us to solve all your problems or headaches that you have with the manure, whether it be, again, the crusting, the odor, or the flies. So that's another thing that we do offer as a company, but I want you to know that we're not a ship and bill company. We have experience, we have knowledge, and we're here to support you. We're here to help you leverage your manure to get more value out of it, to get more nutrition out of it, to cut down on your agitation time, your hauling time, and agronomically improve the results that you see and build soil health over time by how you manage it. So, you know, I just want to relate that to you.
Jim, I got some comments.
Go ahead.
So James Waldner is a customer of mine, and so he started. Hang on, I'm trying to get my computer's not cooperating. Anyway, he started with us. He's actually a dealer now, but he started with us. He had a building explode from methane. He was kind of walking towards the tractor, and when it blew up, he said he turned the heat down and everything, but the pilot light must have still kicked in, or and blew the roof off and blew the side of the building out, killed over 700 hogs. Quite an ordeal. And I called him after that happened. Never talked to him, just heard about it and called him, and he finally answered. He came to one of our meetings, and I told him I could help him out, and the rest is kind of history now, because he's treating with us. He's seeing great response. He's having much less foam. He doesn't have any foam anymore. That methane foam, the black gray type of foam, we aren't seeing that anymore. And so now he's a dealer. He's selling what he's also using. But he had a comment that on the mechanical defoamer, for instance, his tank is 6,000 gallons, and he was hauling about 5,500 is all he could get in there because of the foam. And he started using the mechanical defoamer, and now he can fill completely up and go. And he says he hauls 3 miles away, and he says that saves me a tremendous amount of hauling and time, just like what you were saying.
Well, you can imagine a big dairy with 50 million gallons of manure, or these custom applicators. I mean, time is money with them, and getting in and out of a job, being effective in doing it, and getting good results for the customer. It's so important. And these are tools that you can use to help you do those things. And so, I mean, we just love to hear our customers talk about the benefits they're seeing from the technology that we're using. John, I lost my next slide thing at the bottom. I got to start over here, I think. Okay, there we go. Okay, now I would like to kind of summarize the manure part of the presentation before we move on to the product of the month. And that is, feel free to call us. Go to our website, profitproag.com, and it's got all our information. It's got a lot of really good information on the manure side of our business, and it has all our contact information. And no question is too foolish, so call us if you got issues or you need help. And we'll put a program together for you and show you the benefits, show you a treatment schedule, put a cost down there, show you what it's going to cost per gallon of manure treated on an annual basis, your cost per acre. And then if you get a 5% yield response, normally you're going to get somewhere around a 1 to 5 payback on every dollar you spend, just agronomically. So what I'd like to do now is we'll move into the product of the month, and that is our biological seed coating. And we've been in this business also quite a while, and we have excellent technology when it comes to biological seed coating. And we're fortunate tonight to have Dennis Clockengay, our lead crop management consultant in the company, to share with us the results that he's seen using this technology. And specifically, he had a organic producer in Minnesota, in the western part of Minnesota, that has been using it for quite a few years. And again, he actually sells a seed brand, and he also took this on to sell it to his customers. So Dennis, tell us about the Profitpro technology.
So Profitpro is a seed coating. It's a blend of different microbes, including mycorrhizal fungi and Pseudomonas and trichoderma, all these different microbes, and they all have a function. They solubilize nutrients that are in the soil. Mycorrhizae kind of form like little fingers in the soil, and they'll take and find phosphorus and make it available to the plant. And these microbes will work synergistically with the plant in that they'll provide the plant with sugars and carbon and that type of thing, and then the plant will provide the microbes with nutrients and things like that. So they work synergistically together. Actually, I think I said that backwards, but anyway, the root system, the mycorrhizal fungi are very important in that fashion. The trichoderma act as almost like a biofungicide, if you will. They affect different diseases and pathogens that are in the soil. So they kind of fend those things off by working with competitive exclusion. Basically, you're pumping up the plant, building up that immune system to fend off the bad guys. So that's kind of how the trichoderma work. And then we have nitrifying bacteria in the product as well. So there's all of these different microbes. They all have a function, and they're all very important for the root system. But what we see with Profitpro in general is we'll see a larger root system, a more broad root system, but more root hairs. And the more root hairs you have, the better your water uptake will be, and the better your nutrient uptake will be. So that when I go out to the field and we start digging plants, that's what I look for. Look at that root system, look and see how many root hairs there are. How does that soil dig? Is it firm to dig? Is it sticky? All these different structure questions, they all go back to not only biological activity, but fertility and things like that. So it's a lot of different things that we look at when we go, and dig plants up. Well,
we also, Dennis, this slide that we're showing right now,
yep.
This is actually an Albertley Seed House organic Viking variety. And what we did was we treated the seed on the left there, you see, with the enhanced root mass and growth. On the right was non-treated, and we put it in blotter paper and let it grow for 12 days. And you can see the difference in the Profitpro PB increased top growth like 37% and root growth by 42% in 12 days. So what we see then is obviously a better stand, a better emergent, more uniform. But one of the things that I've noticed with this technology in the years we've used it and the number of fields and plots that we looked at is you get a better stem diameter, better standability, but you also many times will get better health throughout the season. And the reason is because we're putting those microbes right where they're needed in the rhizosphere of that root, and they grow with the root. And once that plant starts exudating glucose or sugar into the soil and feeding the microbes, they go crazy and they start multiplying, and they grow in the plant and they grow external to the plant. And as you indicated, the mycorrhizae fungi are very important to bring moisture and nutrients into the plant, and they're an extension of the plant root, the hyphae of the mycorrhizae fungi. So this is really key to getting good stand establishment. And we've had wonderful results with this. In fact, the next slide kind of leads into one of your customers that you've been working with several years, Dennis. Tell us about it.
So this is Jonathan Olson. He's a seed dealer for Viking. And he's been using it, I think, at least 5 years. It's probably been more than that. Oh, 10 years. There we go. But he is, he used it for several years, and then he became a dealer for us. And he started selling to his customers, like you said. But he tests it every year. He has a test plot, and he'll put the profit code on certain hybrids, and then he won't on others. So he has a control. And we went out and dug plants, and you can see there on the picture, a little hard to see, but the 8500 had a much larger root system. It had more root hairs. You can see that the stem diameter, like you were mentioning, is larger, but it's also more round. And the more round that stalk is, the better the nutrition is in that plant. The better nutrition you have, the more you're going to have a better stay green, better disease management, better insect management, that type of thing. Healthier the plant, the better that plant will be, the better the yield. And what we saw was about an 8 bushel per acre increase overall. But we had it as high as 25 bushel per acre on another hybrid in that plot. So last year, I believe he had, I want to say 11 or 12 bushel per acre over the entire plot. So he sees that response. And if he didn't see the response, he wouldn't be selling the product. So Jonathan he's real meticulous, and he loves, numbers, that type of thing. So he does everything by the book. And if he isn't seeing that response, he wouldn't be selling it. So we have liquid formulations, we have dry formulations. The liquid formulation will probably need to bring the seed to us and treat it. It needs to go through a seed treater, a liquid seed treater, preferably with an atomizing drum, so we get good coverage over that. You need to have good mixing and that type of thing. We do send out liquid product to places that we know can treat it properly. But most of the time we'll bring the seed to us and then we'll treat it. We also have a dry product, Profitpro PB. It's a planter box material that you put right on the seed, like a hopper box type of product. And it goes on at 2 ounces per bag of seed for corn and 1 ounce per bag of seed for soybeans. We also have Excalibur OSI is a soybean inoculant. It has 3 different strains in it, so it's a very effective inoculant. So you can put the inoculant as well as the profit coat all in one treatment, and it can go on as a liquid, it can go on as a dry. So we have that option as well. I do have a customer down in Kansas that came up to us at the Moses conference last year, Jim, and he said that he had a 16 bushel response where he used Profitpro PB plus OSI, used on the organic side. He had a 16 bushel response. And he said that you didn't see it early, but he said later on in the season, he started seeing more pods, or more flowers, more pods, more beans in the pod. And he said it just kept progressing and progressing. And he said, yeah, it was 16 bushel difference. It was 56 bushel where he used the product and 40 bushel where he didn't. We don't normally see that huge of a yield boost on soybeans, but every once in a while, absolutely, we will.
And, you know, that's just keeping the root system healthy and the microflora around that root healthy. And what happens then, the plant is able to access more nutrients and produce more energy, stay greener longer. And the reason why he had a higher 16 bushel response, because he was holding more pods. He had more beans in the pod, and he was able to size them up. And that's what gives him the yield advantage. So it's all about stress mitigation and crop production. Yep. And these tools are tools we can use to mitigate stress and to have the plant stay greener longer. The biggest problem we have in Midwest agriculture today, and we've all seen it, the end of August, first half of September, the corn starts dying from top and bottom both. And when you get to the middle of September, it's hard to find a green field, and that's not natural. That's premature death. What we want is a plant that is green at harvest with a big old heavy test weight ear with a dry silk on it. And then that residue has a lot of energy in it, and it's going to turn over and bring energy and nutrition back into the soil. We're going to sequester the carbon and energy for next year's crop, and it's going to break down the residue better. So these treatments are part of the toolbox, part of the recipe that get us there. And as a company, we have a whole toolbox of excellent technology that are cost effective. So really, it's all about the money. It's all about farming the controllables and being a low-cost producer. This kind of technology we talked about tonight, the manure treatment technology and the seed coating technology, both of them are about harnessing the microbes to be functional and to help us be low-cost producers. So with that, Dennis,
one thing in the profit coat, we can treat all different types of seed. Of course, corn, soybeans, small grains, grasses, cover crops, alfalfa. We've treated sugar beets. We've treated black beans. We've treated, pretty much you name it. So just keep that in mind too.
Yeah, it really works effectively with cover crops. And what we do there when we're blending cover crops for producers, we'll throw in the Profitpro PB right in with it. So it coats it, and man, they get a good stand. So it really makes a difference. They get that cover crop off to, or any crop off to a good start. It's really the good start and the uniformity of stand that is really critical. It's all about uniformity when you look at crop production and look at corn and soybeans as an example. You have to have a uniformity of stand within the row, and the height of the crop should be, as uniform as possible.
Yep.
So Dennis, do you have anything else to add before we close out?
Nope, I don't think so.
Well, Dennis, tell us about the early order program, how that works.
Let me go to that one here. There we go. So right now we're at 7%, so that you can just call us up and order a number of different products. The manure products are not included in this, but you'll get a 7% prepaid discount if you order and pay by November 30th. Then it drops from down to 6%, 5%, and on down based on the time of the year that you order. But a lot of people are taking advantage of that prepay, and it's a pretty good discount. We'd love to, help you out there. Good way to save some money. Put that money on 2020's tax returns. I had a guy that talked to me today. He said that he really needs to put some money in the 2020 because of the money they got from the government because of the tariffs and things like that. So we can sure help you out.
So crop prices are up right now. They look strong going into next year, and this is another good way to make some money and be a low-cost producer. So we're here to help you and talk to you. You've got any questions at all, don't hesitate to call Chris, Dennis, or myself. Information on our website, profitproag.com. So with that, I want to thank everybody for being part of our webinar tonight, and tell others that maybe weren't on. We archive all of our webinars and have for, we used to do teleconference call. So we probably got about 15 years of these that are on our website. A lot of really good topics and information that you can access at any time. So I'd like to wish everybody a good Thanksgiving coming up here. Let's play it safe. And I want to say thanks for being with us, and God bless each one of you. Good evening.